Hello, this is just a little video that I thought I would kind of show a little bit of a tutorial on trying to make something like this. I got this little mini canvas and the little easel at Dollar Tree or Dollarama. I can't remember which one it was. I think it was Dollarama in Canada. I know Dollar General in the US has similar, but they're smaller. They're like a lot smaller. This one's, I'll give the dimensions on the screen, how big this little canvas is. And I just wanted to kind of show how I did this and kind of trying to give a little bit of a close up here. This was done with gouache and it's glazed. So I sealed it because I got a lot of fur floating around in my house and I didn't want fur to get stuck to it. And I tried to raise it a little so that the paint would kind of almost give it like a dimensional kind of element. And I wanted like to try and make something similar to the one that I have hanging on my wall currently, which is here. And this one is, I think, 3 feet by 3 feet. And so this is just kind of my go-to kind of bucket that I kind of bring with me if I'm going somewhere like over the weekend or something, or if I'm, like a friend wants to paint with me. This kind of contains all of my essentials. And then I have white Nights Watercolor, and I have the Himi Gouache kit. And this is what I painted using that Himi Gouache kit. So yeah, I'm just going to set up here, and this is kind of just an overview of everything that's in here, which I will take out a piece at a time in one moment. Just switching to down view. This is the Himi Gouache set, which I can link below. I'll link everything that I show in the description below, keeping in mind that this is from Canada, so I don't know. I'm like, obviously almost everything is going to be available in the US because usually like they have everything, and Canada is sometimes optional. Sometimes we can't get the same things, but so I'm pretty sure you're going to be able to find it in the US. I'm not sure about anywhere else though, but yeah, this is my my gouache set. For the gouache, if I haven't used it in a little bit, they do get a little like firmer on the tops. So I just spray it with water, and I just got this from the dollar store, and you just give it a good spray, and then you can cover it for a while. I would say like at least maybe 30 minutes. Sometimes I'll do it the night before, and then it just kind of like really seeps in, and then it kind of like loosens everything up, so then it's good to go after that. I'll do the same thing with watercolors, except you don't need to let it sit as long as you would with gouache. Gouache needs to like kind of reactivate a little bit more than watercolors. At least like that's what I've found. Gouache always like, I'm not that experienced dealing with gouache. I've only just started maybe like a couple years ago, just on and off. And I do find it really difficult to layer it. Like, as soon as you start layering onto what you've already put down, you bring up you bring up your lower level easily if you're not careful. Or if you use too much water, you'll like kind of reactivate everything underneath. And it can be really frustrating, but I found like There was one larger picture that I did. I'll put it on the screen, and it's the Harry Potter Three Brothers tale. And that took me forever because I did a base wash in that kind of lighter brown tone. And every time I tried to layer any of the brothers or do any detail at all, I would bring up the background. And then anytime I made a mistake and I tried to like wipe it, I would wipe the whole thing. So I ended up with like kind of white spots almost, but I will probably go more into that when I try recreating the other gouache painting that I just showed earlier. This is the White Nights set. I love these. They came recommended by Emily Artful, who's a YouTuber on. She does like all watercolor. Like that's kind of her main content. I think that's all she does. Like I don't even think she's done acrylic. I think she tried gouache once. But yeah, and the one thing that I take from her videos, she has a how to do watercolor, and I just hear her in the back of my mind going light thin layers, light thin layers. So every time I do watercolor, I hear Emily Artful in the back of my mind going light thin layers. But yeah, like I love this set. And I also have Daniel Smith, which I found this at a flea market, and it's like one of those thin old cigarette boxes, and I put all of my Daniel Smith in here, and I just kind of put them in little pans, and I mark them on the sides, and they all have magnets underneath, and then they have the names on the sides, and this way I can move them around. If I get new colors, then I can add to it. Like my newest color is down here. That's why it's kind of singled out. And it's Shadow Violet. And I was in the store when I saw the Shadow Violet, and it was very granulating, which if you are new to watercolor, granulating is just, it has like this texture. It's not like just this clean wash. There's like a little bit of like almost like grains, right? So it's granulating, and it's just like, it was just beautiful in the swatch, but I haven't swatched it on here yet because it is that new. So I still need to add it in here. Yeah, so these are kind of like my favorites that I've kind of picked out. And I do buy them like when this whole collection of mine that I've accumulated is over like probably the past 7 to 10 years. I started with like collecting Daniel Smith. I started with a primary set to begin with. So I started with the 5 tubes. They were on sale at Michael's during like a Black Friday, whatever. And I got them like half price, and that's kind of what started it. And that was probably about maybe 5 years ago, and then just kind of added one here and there. Whenever I see a color that I like, I would add one, and it's just kind of grown to that amount. So it's nothing like it's not like I just suddenly came into a bunch of money and I decided to go out and spend. But this one I bought like 2 Christmases ago, because I wanted to do Christmas cards, like handmade Christmas cards. And this is Paul Rubens. And I wanted something like kind of sparkly, kind of to add accents. And with working with these, it's best if you have some sort of undercolor first. And then you would put this as like a shimmer accent on top. They don't work all that great if you're just trying to use these just to paint on like a white piece of paper, like a white watercolor paper, and you're thinking that you can use these like normal watercolor. They're probably not going to show up. I mean, unless you tilt it into the light and you have your page and you tilt it, then you could probably see the white shimmer. But like, other than that, I would say these are probably all just going to be like, they're best used as accents. So if you want like to add a little bit of a kick to your color, that would be this set. So I would recommend it to add a little dazzle, but kind of not if that's your first and only watercolor set. You may get a little discouraged, maybe disappointed, you know. And then another thing I would recommend is, like, I got this at a thrift store for 75 cents. So, like, it's porcelain. I would say stick with porcelain if you want to try kind of like a repurposed item, and you don't want to go buy a palette, you know, or you're looking for something a little bit more durable than just plastic. Porcelain helps the watercolor to not like bead. If you put down some watercolor, it'll like stay kind of spread out. It won't all pool into little beads, basically. And it makes it a little bit easier to work with too. And I would suggest getting white rather than like a cream color dish. You would want a white dish. So this is kind of what I used to mix on. And then of course, like if I'm going away, then I just kind of use whatever like travel option they've given me. Like this one, I've used this one a lot just because I didn't have the dish with me, so I just used that. And then I carry a pair of scissors, and then I carry this little pouch that I found a while ago, and it's just basically markers, watercolor or waterproof art pens that are just black. And there was one YouTuber, I'm pretty sure if you're in the art community, you know Super Rate Dizzle. She mentioned that you could wash these. So I haven't tried it yet. I want to try it to see if I can actually get my kneaded eraser clean again. So that's kind of like on my try list. And then just water pens from Arteza. Arteza is another place that I shop quite often. And this had come recommended. I'm not sure which art channel suggested this pen. It's like a brush, and it's like black India ink, and it isn't waterproof though. So it would be after you've finished your watercolor and you want to add some like black lines to your watercolor, then this is kind of gives you a little bit more control. Yeah, so there's not really much else in here. There's like a basic HB pencil, and that's pretty much it. And then brushes. I have this little container, my little R2D2 container. These are all only like watercolor specific. So like this is kind of my go-to bring with me whenever, like if I'm traveling or like I want to bring something to do. I'll bring my sketchbook or my watercolor paper, usually Canson. I'll get the Canson book with the spiral, and I'll bring this because this kind of covers all of it, right? You've got the kind of the rounds that's a little bit larger, and then you have the flat brush for the washes to do like backgrounds, and then there's a fine detail one here. And these are also stiff enough that they also work with gouache. And I find like when you're working with gouache, if you're using like a watercolor brush, like say this one, it's so soft that kind of picking up the gouache is a little difficult because the gouache seems to be more stiff, and this is like a flood, I think. Like it's for flooding the page with color. So or a mop. I forget what they're called now, but I'm pretty sure that like it's not really meant for like any sort of detail. You're just kind of getting the color on there. But yeah, I don't really know why I have this many brushes. Like half of these I've probably never really even used. This one was kind of a gimmick. There was one creator that I was watching that swore by this brush, and she said that it was like one of her favorites. I think I used it once. It's not really a go-to for me. I tend to like the more stiff bristles because there's more control, and it all depends on your style. What you're painting as well is definitely going to affect what you're selecting. And to quote Emily Artful again, she says that she prefers the kind of stiffer brushes. I think she said that they were flippy, or they spring back, like she was pulling on the brush and it would like flip back really quickly, and snappy. That's it, snappy. And I'm kind of in the same kind of idea as that, as I like the snappier brushes rather than the floppy brushes. So, and then I have sorry for explosions. These are all just smaller detail, but these are for acrylic. Oh, and palette knives. These are just round brushes and squares, and yeah, and some of them are like a little tathery, but this is a very flippy brush, like it's very stiff. So these I find are really good for acrylic, for gouache too. I would say gouache does well with acrylic type brushes more so than watercolor, because of the medium, right? Like gouache behaves more like acrylic, so it would only stand to reason that you would probably do better off with using an acrylic brush. But yeah, these are kind of, I just keep them in this jar and I pick out the ones that I want to bring with me, and I will pick out some of these if I'm working with gouache. I'll grab some of these with me rather than that one set, the Daniel Smith set. And then I have the much larger brushes that I need to be able to do those 3-foot canvases, like the Starry Night one that I have on my wall. So like these ones, this is what I use to paint that 3-foot one. I believe I have a bigger one than this even somewhere, but I'm not too sure where I put it. It's not often, so a lot of these look almost new because I've rarely used them, because I've only ever done one 3-foot by 3-foot painting. Actually, no, I've done 2. Yeah, I have another one. It was like a Banksy that I copied. And then this, actually, I'll show up a close-up of this one, and it's got like a bit of a shimmer to it. And I did this at Christmas time. I had cut out this snowflake on my Cricut, and my cat got the end and bit off this corner of the snowflake. So instead of throwing it out, I kind of just threw it on here, and I just used some gouache to put in some blue. And then I used one of these like purple shimmer and the blue shimmer, And I just started adding like all this shimmer to it, just to kind of give it some like magic. So yeah, that's kind of how that turned out, which is actually really surprising. Like, I didn't think it would look that nice. So yeah, it's just a dollar store canvas that I'm gonna put magnets on it and put it on the fridge. Okay, so a couple of the other things that I wanted to mention is, if you're using watercolor on canvas, it kind of has a hard time to stay on this, just because of the if they're not gessoed and you're just getting like a canvas like just straight out of the wrapper, like from the dollar store or Dollar General or wherever, it's almost like the watercolor doesn't absorb into it. Like, you can see here, I'll try to zoom in a little bit so you can see it. Right here, it seemed to like reject the water. It doesn't want to absorb, like the canvas. Just like, you can, if you go over it, I think enough times, eventually you can get it. Like, this was fully coated. Like, I coated it completely, and then the canvas just kind of repelled it. So a way to get around that, like, there's that little sparkle. The way to get around that is there's these little bottles. I got this with the Daniel Smith, the 5-pack with the 5 primary colors in the little tubes, and it came with this. I haven't tried it because I haven't really needed to try it. Like, I could maybe try it out, like, and let you know how it works, like, but it's been so many years that I've had this. It may even be dried up by now, but it's a watercolor ground, and you coat this. So you would put that on the canvas first, and then it makes the canvas like kind of watercolor friendly, so that you can actually like paint on it. Yes, it's a little gloopy, but it might still work as a paste. I'm not too sure. I've had it in this plastic bag, tried to keep it away from air so it wouldn't dry out, so it might be alright. I'm not sure. But yeah, and then I just wanted to kind of show, I got these from Arteza. They're a set of 14. It's a pretty good deal, and I got the larger size, the 4x4. There's also a 3x3 that you can get, but it's relatively the same price, and I thought I might as well get one that's like a little bit bigger, right? It's like an inch bigger both ways, and it's, you know, a little canvas, and it's got the little easel with it. And I kind of wanted these because I like giving kind of like handmade gifts at Christmas time. And I wanted to like kind of personalize a little painting for like the ladies at my work and give that to them as like a Christmas gift so that they can put that on their desks. And I just never have time to do anything. Like, it's crazy how like you never have time to do anything in life. It's kind of a downside. But I am actually gonna keep one of these out because I want to try painting the Starry Night on one of these, because the one that I had actually used is kind of landscape, and this one's the square 4x4, and the original Starry Night painting is actually square. So this is the one that I painted the other one on, which would be this one. So I got it from Dollarama for $2, and it came wrapped up, and it's like a really good deal for $2. I'm actually kind of kicking myself that I didn't get more of them because they're no longer available. like they don't have, like, I haven't seen them probably in about a year now. So this is my last one. But so that's why I'm gonna kind of hold on to this one and maybe use it for something else that may actually be an image that's more landscape. And this one, like, as you can see, it's like there's not much detail to it. There's just like kind of, I was looking at the painting that's on my wall when I made this, so I wasn't looking at the original image. And if you can see here, there's like some cracking in this star. Yeah, like right there. There's a little bit of cracking. So that's just from the gouache being really thick. And if you're okay with that, like I was fine with it. I didn't really care. But yeah, like I guess if you're selling it. And I also looked it up too, the Starry Night, because Van Gogh has, I think it's because Van Gogh has been dead for 100 years, that his art is now in like public use. So you can actually recreate and sell like any of his work. And you're not going to get like copywritten or come after by a team of lawyers for selling his artwork, because it is now public use. So that's kind of also why I wanted to try painting it again. And another thing that I also use is, especially for gouache, because gouache is, it dries looking matte. So I keep that property of gouache and I keep it matte most of the time. Obviously this one's glossy, so I don't always listen to myself, but I try to keep it the same so I don't suddenly change it. And this is also UV resistant, which is helpful if somebody's, say, for me, I'm going to be spraying it with this because it's UV resistant. Because of the nature of who I'm giving it to, I'm going to be giving them to ladies that have cubicles in the office right next to the window. And over time, it's going to end up dulling the colors. So at least their painting might not dull as badly if it has that protectant on it. Okay, so I just went ahead and printed it. Just so I have it kind of for reference, like kind of right in front of me. I'm not going to be going off of this one for reference because if you can see, like in the side by side, there are a lot of differences. Like this has a moon in it. This one's just a blob, and the swirl on this is kind of a little more kind of compact into the center. And this one kind of goes more kind of thinly and across. I also don't have this like kind of upward swoop. And this one just kind of across. And the little church thing is a lot smaller in the original and very prominent in this one. And the whatever the heck this root thing is here. So basically my point being is if you looked at this all on its own, you know it's the Starry Night painting. There's so many indicators, like everybody knows. Well, I mean, I guess I can't say everybody. I'm kind of generalizing, but still, like, you know, like if you know of the Starry Night painting, you would say that this is kind of like a pretty kind of close-ish copy. I mean, there's a lot of flaws and stuff, but I mean, it was just done in about, I don't know, I think it took me an hour. It was about 2 summers ago, and I was bored sitting on my couch. and I looked across the living room and thought, hey, I'll try and do a mini version, hence the Borden. And yeah, and I also always carry my edges over. So like when I'm painting, I'll just keep it going. I've always done that. I don't know why. I just don't really like having like a black or say a solid color edge all the way around. So I carry that same pattern up and around. It's all preference, right? If you like having the sharp, clean edge to make it as though it's like a frame, then I can totally see that too. But yeah, so I'm going to try and put this image on the square rather than the rectangle and see how that goes. I will probably cut this here because it seems like it's a little bit wider than it is tall, I believe. Yeah, it's not perfectly square, because if it was, then it would be like this. So it's cut about halfway through this stack is square. Yeah, and so I have some paper towel, and I got my bottles. Oh, right, and these jars. These are Tostitos salsa jars, the larger ones that you can get with the yellow lids that say Tostitos on them. They are so handy because they're wide mouth and they are perfect. I love them. They're so easy to clean. And my little like brush cleaner thing with the suction cup at the bottom I got from Blick Art Supplies in the US. I think I'm going to do some sped up footage. I'm basically just going to start with a blue wash of gouache paint. And once I get it completely covered, I'm going to let it dry for a bit. And then I will I'll do a voiceover of my sped up footage so I don't sound like a chipmunk while I'm painting. So one moment while I get set up for that. Okay, so this is just me mixing up the paints, and I did this for the entire tray, although I only did show the last two colors just for time purposes and cutting down repetitiveness, but there's a huge chunk in this black that I had to break up quite a bit, and I just kind of jabbed at it with a crochet needle. It's metal and doesn't really stain and is easy to wipe off, so you can also use the end of your paintbrush. And this is me just kind of setting up how I want it, and I'm going to just, like, I've painted the whole background just the solid dark color, and I picked the dark blue because looking at the original, it seems like the base back coloring is dark blue, like, because you can kind of see it peeking out through all of the lighter brush strokes and the kind of lighter dabs throughout the painting. There's just this kind of overall darkness kind of hidden behind the painting. And so then after it's dry, I'm just trying to map out where I want it, and I know I want that swirl right in the middle. And coming up soon, you'll see that I kind of didn't really do that. I had it too far off to the side, and then I ran out of room. So this is where the problem with gouache kind of comes in. I'm trying to erase it and pull it up, and I actually pulled up most of my background. So now the white canvas is coming through. So it is a little awkward sometimes to deal with gouache. I kind of almost pulled up most of my background just doing that. So here I'm just going in with white to mark out where I want all the stars and the moon. And I kind of continually go over these spots with white just to try to lighten them and kind of separate them from the background. I could have also wetted a little bit more and pulled up the background color and went straight back down to canvas, if that makes sense, because it is very easy to pull up gouache if you want to remove it from canvas, especially like the canvas texture that is this. If you're painting on a cotton, like if you buy watercolor paper, you can see if it says 100% cotton, and it'll kind of suck in more of that paint color. So sometimes it stains as well. But that's what I mean by it being different on this canvas. It doesn't stain, it doesn't suck up, it doesn't really want paint on it almost. So pulling up colors is a lot easier on like these little kind of mini canvases from the dollar store and such. So this is I'm just kind of trying to get a color match to the moon. So I've mixed in orange with that really bright fluorescent yellow just to kind of dull down the yellow, because I don't want a yellow that kind of bright for the moon, because the moon in the photo is a little bit more on the orange tint. So I'm just kind of setting aside a little bit of that orange color too to put in some white and lighten it a little, just for that the yellow throughout the entire painting seems to be that moon orangey yellow, but with white mixed in. So it's almost as though like he had the pre-mixed orange from the moon, threw in a little bit of white, and then carried it throughout, which is also on the houses as well. There's little kind of windows that are showing yellow in the houses. So I just, to start, I'm just kind of dotting everywhere randomly, the lighter blue, the darker blue, and the white, just to try to get kind of the overall kind of painting style. It's kind of very hard to dot with this size paintbrush too. Like I actually probably should have switched to a smaller paintbrush, but I did want to just kind of do it quickly and not spend too much finicky time on it, and I wanted layers. So yeah, so this is just me trying to put in some layering to it. I do find that giant brown fixture kind of terrible looking. But it is like such a staple to the overall like picture that it's kind of required, I guess. Like, I mean, I guess you could leave it out and just put in more houses. But yeah, I actually kind of wonder what that would look like if you just left out that brown monstrosity and just put in more houses instead. Because it seems to be like an overall theme that nobody really likes that big brown thing. I don't know, it looks like grown tree roots that kind of just stretched up to the sky. Yeah, so this is just more layering and trying to get in a little bit more white, because if I noticed that the horizontal like swoosh has a lot of white in it, and I think this is where I started to realize, oh crap, I don't have enough white in as much as I should. And this is where I'm just trying to map in some of the houses as well. Yeah, so this is just a lot of back and forth and a lot of playing with it. It does, like, if you're new to this and you want to try painting for the first time, I definitely encourage it. Like, like, I don't know what I'm doing half the time, and wouldn't consider myself an artist. I just like kind of doing art, even though it's mediocre. And it's, like, I like having like original paintings. Like, I don't want to, go on like Temu or Wish or whatever and find like a smaller version of this on a printed canvas. I like seeing that texture, the paint texture, like kind of like the cracked texture that's on the other painting that I have. I like that they are almost mini replica paintings with paint and not printed. And that's kind of my only, like, that's my preference, right? So that's why I kind of try and make an effort to actually paint them. That's why I'm using gouache as well, and not watercolor, or because watercolor, like, you can't build it up like you can with this. I will probably try it with acrylic, because acrylic, you can kind of get the same thing. You can kind of build it up a little bit, although I have actually seen people put baking soda in their paint to make it like really thick. So I kind of want to try that too, as kind of a hack. You can also buy heavy body paint to try to get that texture. If you like me and you like, having texture in your actual paintings and making it look like a kind of mini actual painting and not just a print. So yeah, so this is my struggle. And yeah, the big brown thing is just weird. I may actually try leaving it out of another painting and see what happens. So now I've gotten to the point where I have too much white and I don't have enough blue or darkness in it. I've kind of lost most of that underpainting with that dark, rich blue. It's kind of all been covered up. So here's me trying to put some of it back with that dark, rich blue color. I've thinned out my paint a lot with water so that I could get smaller little dabs in there. And now it's kind of all swirling together. And then I've realized I've just covered up all my white. So it's just all back and forth and finicking with it. I believe the overall runtime of this was about an hour, which is kind of roughly what my other one took as well. I'm just gonna check that while I'm kind of watching this. Oh, and the Posca markers come out. I couldn't get enough of detail with that other brush, and my markers are kind of haven't been used in a while, so I had to kind of reactivate them. So I'm using the white to try to get in some more of that detail in the little tiny dashes, I guess would be a good word for them. And I haven't even put the moon in yet, so that's a little concerning. So yeah, here's my I mixed the moon color, and then by the time I went to go and use it, it's already started to clump. And I'm caking it on, so the way I kind of lifted it up on the side and just kind of placed it on top was just kind of me trying to cake it. And yeah, this overall process took an hour and 15 minutes. So it's not too bad if you want to try it on your own. Just remember layers. The more layers, the more kind of you can try to fight with it to try to make it look more like the original. And then I would also suggest just trying to take a break, walk away from it, come back, and then you'll start to see certain things. Like here, I noticed I have no black. And in the original photo, there seems to be like a lot of black, like especially under the moon. There's that one part where there's like this kind of almost a rock formation, it seems like, where it's all a big chunk of black. And I didn't have any black in this painting at all. And all of the houses are outlined in black, which is something else I didn't really focus on. I was so focused on the swirl and getting the dashes right that I didn't actually notice how much black there is throughout this painting. Like there's a lot. So yeah, this is just me dabbing on some black. And then I kind of started to notice it looked a little like there's just too much going on. Like it looked too busy. So I took my white again and went back over to try to get rid of some of that busyness, because it just seemed like too many dashes. So yeah, and I'm just kind of trying to make some cohesiveness at the bottom so it's not just flat, because there's a lot of busyness at the bottom too with a little village. And yeah, I'm just about done here. And then I'll be able to show kind of like a more close-up. And then I also have a photo of what it looks like completely dry the next day. So oh yes, I noticed that there wasn't as much yellow throughout. Like there was yellow like just on the dots of the stars, but there's actually yellow around each star as well. So that's why I was kind of adding in. So I was so okay with it. Like I still find it's a little too busy. I'm not sure what I would really change. If you have any suggestions as to what could make it look not so crazy, I am open to suggestion, comments. But yeah, and then there's the final photo. I find it looks alright. I guess the swirl needs a little bit of work, and there isn't as much of that black mound that was on the right hand side, but yeah, other than that, everything's great. And I will see you in the next video with something else. Thanks. Bye.